Today on the podcast, we are going to talk about the significance of pilgrimage, why it's important, why everyone needs to go on pilgrimage. And for whatever reason, these days, pilgrimage gets sort of a bad name among some people within spirituality, because some people will say, why do you need to go anywhere and this and that? And that's also true too. But there is also a significance of pilgrimage. And what we often find is that those who go on a sacred pilgrimage have something a little bit different than those who just stay at home and read books and practice their own spirituality indoors. There's something significant about getting out to these places. And I think it's actually more of a Western phenomenon, to be honest with you, because like when you and I, you're an Easterner, but we've lived mainly in Asia most of our adult life, and people don't have those sorts of questions because that's kind of analytical, right? Like if you're a Thai, if you told a Thai person, you're going to the Bodhi tree next year, they're stoked. Like they can't wait, you know what I mean? Like there's no debate or analytical thinking in their mind about this sort of thing. I think this has kind of developed since Eastern spirituality went to the West, where, you know, people may get introduced to Advaita Vedanta or something like this, and they read certain phrases and it says, you know, you don't need to go anywhere. And that's true, but there's still the experience of life. And especially within the Eastern traditions, there's a lot of respect for the pilgrimage sites and so forth and so on. Like if you're a Shaiva person, a person who worships Shiva, obviously you have to go to the Ganga and Varanasi, and you have to go to Arunachala and Tiruvannamalai and, you know, Pashuputanath and Kathmandu and you name it, you know what I mean? There's pilgrimage sites, especially in India, right? The whole place is a shrine. So, and you and I personally have benefited from pilgrimage as well, haven't we? So
Definitely. I think even the Western countries, so Western religions, like Catholicism, Christianity, and Islam, and this kind of Abrahamic religions also have obviously the spiritual pilgrimage as well. And those people also visit like place like Jerusalem and Mecca, that's right. Mecca and Vatican City and these sort of places. But I think nowadays, there's some reason, I guess it's come along with the advancement of technology and science and things like that, that there is a lack of respect to this kind of experience itself, right? That, I mean, like, you name it, how much information that's out there available online that we can just click and basically in your fingertip, that you can just click through the websites and videos and things like that, and you can get in touch with the information and even footages with the great qualities and music and things like that, and as if that you are there really. But again, we know it's just completely different. Physically, you're being there and you're just watching through the screen. It's like you may like convince yourself that you know the place and you feel the place, but when you're actually there, it's quite completely different. Like, I mean, again, like we've been traveling Asian countries for a very long time, but similar feeling I had like when we went to Egypt, for example, right? I mean, Giza pyramid, like from children to older age people, they know all about that site. It's very, very famous around the world, and people get to see the documentaries about it and videos and books and pictures and things like that. And when we actually visited there, it's quite different because you get to have a full experience of a lifestyle of Egyptians as well. Like you land at Cairo and you get taxi and get to downtown around the Cairo. We had quite a bit of a trouble to find the places, language barriers and whatnot. So the whole experience goes into going to the place like that. And again, same story, like I was in a conversation with this really nice older Korean person that I met in Pai. How amazing the journey is in India in general. Although you just go down to a chai shop and have a cup of tea or have a nice Indian meal or something down the road or something like that, or just moving from city to city. Everything is like something special about it, because we know that even getting to train station, even finding a platform to get on the right train can be a bit of a journey, you know. And everything, because everything goes into get to place, and that's why it makes it more special.
Yep.
Its experience is very rich.
Exactly. Like if you look at, so like we all know the pyramids, like you said, and that's like a catalyst to pull you to the place. But the experience around it, experiencing the people's lives there, and this and that, that's what's more so important, actually, isn't it? 'Cause that's what we've found out too. Like, because we've lived in a lot of pilgrimage places, like we've spent months and months in pilgrimage places, and you get to know the local people there, you get to understand the cognitive style of that area and how it's different from where you're from, and then you can learn a lot from that, right? And so that's one of the most important things, is the transformation of your own mind on a pilgrimage. And a lot of people will read a book, for example, and they think that they understand a certain tradition, but they've never been in the environment where that tradition came from. And that's been one of the advantages you and I have had, especially with this channel and this podcast. A lot of people ask us, how come you guys have such vast knowledge and you can speak about it, things like this? And it's because, well, we've actually lived there and we've been there, and it's had an effect on the way that we think and our behavior and and even our own cognitive style. And so that's very important. Like, for example, you could read the Bhagavad-Gita, right? And you could read that, and obviously it hits everyone. But if you've been in the area, or if you've been in India and you've lived in India a long time, it means even something much more deeper, because you understand the mind of where that text came from. And that's why pilgrimage is important, because you're going essentially on a path that those great sages have also walked and have contemplated, and so you're going on that experience as well, you know, in honor of them, in respect of them, but it's having a similar effect, right?
I think we build emotional connection with the place when you're actually in that environment,
Yes.
right? Like you remember like little kids who work in the chai shop serve us chai, and you become friends with them, and they can speak 5 different languages, and like they have just such intelligent kids just working at the chai shop. And like they can't afford to go to school and whatnot, but we know there's a wonderful kids you become friends with, and we get on like a over 30-hour journey on the train, and like it's there are 3 beds in each like part, and you kind of become very close to the next seat people, and usually family, usually like you see 3 generations, like grandparents, parents, and the kids, right? And they prepare their meal, and they offer us their meal.
That's crazy.
So we build that kind of emotional bond, and I mean that again, like their culture is completely different. They often don't even speak English, and they look different, obviously. But we all meet each other in the same page under the name of a human being, right? So we build that emotional connection, so that when we come in touch with the Indian traditional knowledge, I think it touches you even more, because you know how their lifestyle is like, and I mean what kind of food they eat, their dress code, and just way people are really, you know, like such nice people, really. And at first, obviously, they feel a little bit maybe somewhat uncomfortable, a little bit foreign, because they know we're not from India, we are travelers, and we don't speak their language, so they don't know how to communicate. But you know, after like 3-4 hours, and you just say hello, just try to communicate somehow with the broken English, they have, but then we become friends kind of instantly.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. It's very important because, like, if you're like to understand their mind, if you're interested in like all of those great texts like the Bhagavad-Gita, Upanishads, the Dhammapada, the Tao Te Ching, the Zhuangzi, you need to go to those places, and because those texts could not have came from the West, because the West is an individualistic tradition, and their mythology and spirituality is somewhat different in the West, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to understand Eastern knowledge and spirituality, you need to be in those places, have those experiences that you and I have had with those, just with the local people, and understanding how those texts actually could come from those sorts of people, because they have more of a holistic mind. It's not very individualistically focused, so forth and so on, right? So, and talking personally about you and I, some of our great pilgrimages. One of our great pilgrimages was from all the way from Tiruvannamalai all the way to Kathmandu. So we went Tiruvannamalai, Pondicherry, Mahabalipuram, Chennai, Puri, Bodh Gaya, Calcutta, Kathmandu. And I mean, it took us a long time, but the experience we had, and not just the good times, but also the bad times, you can reflect the bad times in air quotes, right? That you can reflect on as actually a great learning curve in the journey, right? So we had a lot of comfortable times, like we went to, actually going to Pondicherry wasn't so comfortable, right? We're staying in a $2 guest house, and we're going to Auroville and Sri Aurobindo Ashram. The $2 guest house wasn't so great, run by a French fella there. I don't know what his name was, but then Mahabalipuram was a little bit better, a little bit not better, but I mean our living situation was a bit better. But then one of the significant moments was when we went to Calcutta, and we arrived. You and I we've never arrived at Calcutta at 3 a.m. We've always arrived like usually 8 a.m. or midday. But arriving at 3 a.m, for those of you who don't know, Calcutta is one of the poorest cities in the world, one of the most spectacular cities in the world as well. The people are amazing. The Bengali people, the West Bengali people, I mean, breaks your heart. But arriving there at 3 a.m. is problematic because you can't get a place to stay. And then when you and I are lying on the side of the road with the other homeless people and sleeping, it's a really good moment to reflect on your life as well. You know what I mean? Like you're in a situation, and it's not even tough. For us, it's one night. For those people, it's every day, But that's all part of the pilgrimage, it's part of the journey about having those so-called tough times, in air quotes. But then you eventually move on anyway. We were in Kathmandu a few days later, and you know what I mean? Like it's nothing that you could complain about, right? Like
Yeah, often people misunderstand the pilgrimage itself as in just visiting sites, right? Like that's how how often we do holidays, right? We spend holidays like that. You kind of plan where to go, in which day, how long you're gonna stay, all this kind of very structured schedule, and you follow by the schedule and things like that. So, I mean, people who never been to Asian countries, especially like India or Nepal, and places like that, and they absolutely have no idea, right? And they try to stick to that sort of way of thinking, and that's why they think that like as in pilgrimage, as in like, is it really worth it? We can just watch some documentaries or great videos. I mean, like there are great ones out there.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can have experience like that. Yeah, you can come from that place, but like you said, especially for Eastern spirituality, going on a pilgrimage is not just visiting sites and things like that. And the Eastern philosophy and spirituality in general is very experiential and has so much emphasis on personal experience in the spiritual journey. That is why physical pilgrimage is as important as studying these ancient scriptures, I believe. That is why having actual experience of pilgrimage can give you much more than just reading like scriptures.
Yes.
I would say, like you said, it takes a lot to navigate through a place like India, for example. That situation, we arrived in Calcutta at 3 a.m. We didn't plan. We were supposed to arrive in the afternoon, I think it was. But when we got to the Gaya Junction station, which is nearby Bodh Gaya, where Mahabodhi Temple is, our train was delayed by like 8 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
And at the time, I remember you didn't feel very well. And just waiting around the train station, it's not very nice place to hang around. There's a lot of poor people, begging for food or money or whatever, and that not very welcoming feeling. And it was very, very hot and humid, I remember.
Bihar.
Yeah. And I think that was actually one of the very memorable moments.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It was pretty tough, actually. And I remember
13 hours we sat there.
Yeah, and so try to work it out. I wanted to get a ticket to get to Calcutta because we had to take the flight to Kathmandu. The flight was already booked and we can't miss the flight.
Of course, yeah.
So we had very that small window of time that we had to figure it out. And I just run around here and there and everywhere. But I mean, Indian people, when it comes to that kind of situation, they're very practical. They try to help you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right? So, we finally got to the train and, so we arrived in Calcutta. I mean, on the train was actually more comfortable than arriving in Calcutta. You just sit there and, in the moving train. Once we arrived there, okay, what now? Right?
Well, it's like like we've told many of our friends before, if a train's late in India, it's not late by half an hour, 1 hour.
Nobody knows when it comes.
Nobody knows. That was 13 hours late.
Yeah.
So, but that's essentially why we rocked up to Calcutta at 3 a.m. But again, part of the experience was that we took a so-called bad situation and and turned it into something. We ended up going to Bellarmouth. We ended up going to the Vedanta Society, which is in Calcutta.
That's where Ramakrishna and the Vivekananda, the lineage is from. Yes,
because that was part of. We wanted to incorporate that also as part of our pilgrimage, and luckily we did. We could. We were running out of time, but we could, because part of that pilgrimage. And see, it was very significant for us because we wanted to. Well, we were living in Tiruvannamalai at the time. And so, we're obviously around Arunachala, Shaivism, going to Ramana Maharshi temple every day. But we wanted to go to Sri Aurobindo temple in Pondicherry. We wanted to go to Auroville. We wanted to go to the great sites in Mahabalipuram. We also wanted to go to the Sri Yukteswar ashram in Puri, and we did that as well. But we also wanted to go to Bodh Gaya, as the Bodhi tree with the Buddha, and also we wanted to go to Bellarmouth in Calcutta, and not to mention Swami Bhumanath and Bodhanath in Kathmandu Valley. So, along with Pashuputanath and all these other places. So, and we did all that. You know what I mean? So it's all behind us. But the whole journey itself was just like when you and I sat back and we were just after the journey and we're sitting back in the Kathmandu Valley. It was quite a lot to reflect upon, right? Like for us.
Definitely. As you mentioned Puri, that just came to my mind that the Sri Yukteswar, who is author of Holy Science and a very big authority on Yuga system, time system of Hindu tradition, we really wanted to visit his ashram. And I mean, we got a bit disappointed because it wasn't treated as good as we would have thought. Right?
Not like the Aurobindo ashram.
And him being also Paramahansa's master, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very right in front of kind of a dump site a little bit. But we end up getting in the little like a area, and there's this really nice gentleman guided us to also come and have a look at a little room where he actually sat and meditated for pretty much entire his life. It's a very small room, like what would it, 2 meter by 2 meter?
2 meter by 2 meters, something like that.
And just a little window on the top and on one side, and there's a door. But it's a little bit like, it's just a room. It's just a room. But the history that he has, and like he actually sat there, meditated for entire his life. And it's quite overwhelming, you know what I mean? Like, you just hear about it, you just read the book. Of course, it's helpful, but it's just that the initial experience when you actually get into the same space as he was, let's say 100 years ago. Like, if we could travel time, we want to, go back in time and see how it looks like. But being in the same space as he was, is a quite overwhelming experience. Like, oh, wow, like, oh, and you feel some, like, that energy around the area. And same experience in Mahabodhi Temple. Like, I mean, people who visited there, like, just, let's be honest, we all got overwhelmed by the whole experience of sitting under the Bodhi tree.
Everybody does, yeah.
Yeah. It's quite overwhelming experience.
Yeah. What I really like about the Sri Yukteswar ashram is it's very rugged. Yeah. It's very Indian.
Yeah, that's right.
Very
Indian, yes.
See, in India, like, a lot of people think of ashrams and that as being these glamorous places because they may see the Ramana ashram, or they may see like the great temples in the north, and they think that every ashram is like that. It's like, not really, like, because a lot of cities you go to, there'll be like a little ashram in a back alley where a master just lived their whole life, and that was what Sri Yukteswar was, right? Like, he, what's sad, I guess, about that tradition is it's not as promoted as a lot of the older traditions, like, say, if we go back to masters like Aurobindo or Ramana, these sorts of or even Ramakrishna, and there's like this whole lineage, right? Like, but the Sri Yukteswar lineage is kind of like, you don't really, it's not out there.
Yeah.
It's not out there. It's out there in the sense that there's a lot of people who follow Paramahansa Yogananda, but like, that became what it is in America and places like that, which is kind of this very glamorous thing. But like, when you actually go to Sri Yukteswar's ashram, it's something completely different. It's very rugged, very Indian. Like you said, it's right beside a dump site, and like, still, like you said, the energy and the power in that place, because that little room that he meditated in his whole life, and just even the gardens in that ashram are not the best, but it's quite, what would you say, quaint. You know what I mean? It's cute, like, almost, but there's a great energy there. You know what I mean? But getting back to our point, this is kind of what you experience when you go on pilgrimage. You're not going to have everything perfect. Your vision of how you think it's going to be is not what it is. It's like what you've said a few times already about when people watch videos, they think they know the place, but then when they go there, something completely different, right? And like, for example, like if we look at Sri Yukteswar's ashram, it's in Puri. I like Puri, but I wouldn't say Puri is the greatest city to go to. I wouldn't say it's like, if people ask me where should I go in India, I wouldn't say go to Puri. Yeah. Even though like Puri has these long beaches, and I mean, in general, the city is not very chaotic, I wouldn't say, but it's, I don't want to say too much negative about it, but it's not like going to Chennai or Calcutta or places like that where, it's city-wise I'm talking about, which have like a bit of an energy and so forth and so on.
Sure.
Yeah, so you're not going to get it your own way on the pilgrimage, right? Never going to get it your own way. How many times have you and I rocked up to Varanasi? Complete nightmare. Absolute nightmare. But that's part of the journey, right? It's part of the journey.
You kind of expect it now, eh?
Oh, of course, yeah. you got to expect it. You got to expect it. But But that's all part of it, right? That's part of the spirituality of the pilgrimage. That's tapping into the heart of the pilgrimage and why it is significant to go on pilgrimage. Life is so catered for these days, right? And when people analytically think, "Oh, I don't need to go anywhere," because they may think that they already understand, they don't understand, because instantly when you say, "I don't need to go anywhere," you still think you're a person. So you got to understand how important it is, and why it's so important to go on pilgrimage, because you get out of all of these. We've become so comfortable, right? Like, because we can just sit at home, like you said, watch a documentary and think we know the place. Whereas actually putting a little bit of effort in and going to those places actually like transforms you, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely. You can't compete.
Can't compete, right?
No. I mean, like watching documentaries and reading books about it and things like it, and help a little bit of understanding and subject matter, but it's just very little glimpse of it.
Well, it's like reading, like a lot of people watching and listening probably have read the Dhammapada or have read the Nikaya teachings of the Buddha. And yes, you should. That's great. But have you sat under the Bodhi tree?
Yeah.
Have you been to Kushnagah? Have you been to the Parinibbana temple? Have you been to these places? Because once you're there, like you said, it's overwhelming when you're there. And for example, for any Buddhist, they don't have those sorts of questions. I'm going to Bodh Gaya next year. Of course you are. Of course you are. Like, because that's just what. Of course, you know what I mean. Like, you're following the path of the Buddha. You want to connect with that.
Absolutely. I mean, from being in the presence of Mahabodhi temple under Bodhi tree, we've seen so many real dedicated people who come to the temple, like lots of Thai people, and I think I've never seen people from Sri Lanka that many in anywhere else.
Anywhere else in the world, yeah.
And they have very similar feature of Indian people, but very different in temperament.
Temperament, yeah.
Like, so innocent, very shy, but you can just tell they're just so pure in heart, and they show pure love and respect to Buddha. And just, I mean, being witness of presence of that people, those sort of people itself is teaching. Around the temple, there are many young kids selling flowers and things like that to tourists, right? And two of them were sitting kind of behind the temple, looking to a tree, sitting and meditating with like a Western meditator or somebody, older person. Like, to me, that was very moving moment, because they're just selling some flowers, but we were talking maybe like 8-9 years old.
We had a photo of those boys, remember? Yeah.
Got the background on my laptop.
On your laptop, yeah.
Because it's a great reminder.
I remember what it was. It was an old Korean lady teaching them how to meditate.
Ah, right.
And she knew those boys because she had been there for so long. And so those boys were always selling flowers in the morning. And so she had been teaching them how to meditate, maybe for days. And and then we would see them meditating at the back with the ladies and stuff like that. And yeah, it's overwhelming, isn't it? Like,
that's what environment does to you, you see? Like, those boys were happen to selling flowers to make some pocket money, right? Where to go? Let's go to temple. Why? Because there are a lot of people at the temple. There you can find all sorts of people come from all around the world. Let's go there to make some money, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what environment can do, really.
And that's very important, because you said that that's a teaching in itself, and it is a teaching, right? Like, because anyone who goes to the Mahabodhi temple, the Bodhi tree, everyone is deeply moved by the way Sri Lankan people are there, especially older Sri Lankan ladies, right? Older Sri Lankan ladies, so innocent, they'll break your heart. It's like...
They couldn't even make eye contact. They're that, like...
Well, they do make eye contact,
Yeah.
but like, it's different, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they're different, yeah.
Like, the innocence in their eyes is very moving. Not polluted by socialization a lot, and very deeply invested in the path of the Buddha, you know what I mean? Like, it's... I remember, because we'd just be sitting under the tree near them, and they'd be like, you know, like, very, you know... Obviously, there's no English, but...
Just acknowledging
it. It's more of the communication is from the heart. It's not really something you need your head for, you know. So, and you know, that's very moving, and a lot of people have that deep impression of those sorts of people, and so that in itself is a teaching, right? Like, you can't learn that if you're on the streets of New York. It's very rare to have someone like that there, right? We remember we had a friend with us in Tiruvannamalai, and we always told her about the sadhus and this and that, and she thought, oh, what, they just sound like a bunch of beggars, you know what I mean? Like, because she had this Western perspective of them. But then when we went to Pradakshina Road and walked along where the sadhus lived, and then the innocence, obviously, in a sadhu's mind is... And they don't want anything. They always do the Abhaya Mudra, you know. Obviously, there's some bubbers who got their hand out, but most of them are Abhaya Mudra, right? And she was, like, deeply moved, you know what I mean? It was like all of that preconceived ideas she had of a sadhu and this and that was all evaporated, because that's not the way it is.
In Western mind, you would think they're just beggars on the street, not working.
And that's not what it is, and you and I know that. And it's hard to articulate that to some people if they don't understand Shaivism, for example. If they don't understand Shaivism or Advaita Vedanta, they just don't get it, right? They do think that they're just beggars on the street. And it's like, no. Some of these people have walked away from jobs, have walked away from family. We know a few who are engineers and this and that who had good jobs, and they turned their back on that to follow that path. They were getting fed all sorts of food in their other life, and all they eat now is dal and rice. That's all they eat forever. Dal, rice, and maybe a chai every now and again. So that's a commitment, right? That's a commitment, and a turning away from the noise, and a turning away from socialization and culture and what's expected of you as a person. So,
I think a lot of people may think that it's easy. Just do nothing, sitting on the street, and meals are given, and they think it's easy life, but actually it's not. If you were to ask yourself that, okay, so I'm going to dedicate my life to spiritual liberation. I'm going to give up everything I have, materially and mentally, and jobs, of course, give all that away, and emotional, mental attachment to the place and the people around you, give up everything. And even more difficult thing is to give up your desires that you want to have and enjoy in this life, in society. Like, you want to go out and enjoy, I don't know, like have some drinks with friends, or buy things that you want to buy, all these things. You want to have some ice cream, you can have ice cream anytime you want. Or this the little or big desires that you have. Give up all that. Eliminate all of that. And be in a foot of Shiva mountain, Arunachala, and read Gitas every day, all day. there is nowhere to go if it's so hot, if it's so cold.
So hot.
At a stage where your brain getting roasted.
50 degrees
Yeah,
Celsius.
so hot. And sometimes meals may not be provided. You'll have to live it through your hunger. Like, literally, you ask yourself that. It's not easy at all. Probably easier to be in a society, I think.
Yeah.
Much easier.
Well, your food and sanitation and everything's taken care of,
Pretty
right?
much. Everything is in your fingertips.
For most people, they just got to put up with a job they don't like. Yeah. Well, that's basically
That's
it, right?
right.
But for the sadhu or the yogi, it's it's difficult in the sense that they don't have those so-called creature comforts, right, at their fingertips. They've eliminated creature comforts. No more, like you said, no more ice cream, no more comfortable bed. You sleeping on the side of the road. All of this, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's right. And again, being in this spiritual journey of pilgrimage, being direct witness of those people right in front of you, it teaches you a lot.
it does.
Literally, we know that all they have is like just a stainless steel little bucket where you can maybe store some food and just some clothes that you can cover yourself, and you can just lay on the floor where you choose to sleep for the night. And that's it, really.
Yeah.
And you go like, wow. But they could never stop smiling.
No. And that's that bliss that arises from not having all of those creature comforts.
Yeah.
Because you're not possessed by getting ice cream, having a car, having all of these things you think you need. When you eliminate all that, there's a deeper bliss that arises within you, which we would call ananda in Sanskrit. So, and that's why they have that blissful aura about them, right? Because they're not possessed by anything anymore.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. That we want to have a lot of things, like own a car, own a house, all these kind of things, right? But in the end, you get possessed by it. And that's what I think a lot of us don't really realize until we don't have it. When we become free from all of that, then you realize, this is real freedom. No possession, no stress, just pure, peaceful mind.
Yeah. And you and I, we've been in that stage for a long time in our life because we don't have cars and all that sort of fancy stuff. And when we have lived in places where you've been disconnected from society and you don't even have internet and all of this stuff, man, you realize like what's really important in life. And it's difficult to get to that stage. For example, if you have internet, you have all the social media, you have, cars and this and that. It's not to demonize those things. It's not to say that they're bad. They have their perks, that's for sure. But when you only know that reality, you're missing out on something really grand on this other spectrum. And a lot of the time, you and I are always trying to get back to that other reality, but we're constantly, in this world. But that's why pilgrimage is important, because you push all that away and you go on the pilgrimage without, you have sort of a goal or a location you want to reach, but the journey there is what is important. It's the whole analogy, right? The destination is the journey itself. Like, the journey is the destination. So that's kind of been warped, that sort of knowledge, but that's kind of what it's talking about. It's talking about that, you're letting go of all of those things to go on that journey. And see, the problem is, for a lot of people, and we've all experienced that, where when you go on a pilgrimage, or even when you go to another country and you just go there with the intention to travel and just to be in that culture, is that if you have a lot of your own cultural programming and socialization, that's going to conflict with the other environment. And if that doesn't crack, then you're just going to end up on a plane going back to your home country. And we've seen that before a lot. And that's happened a lot of times, right? Where people can't handle an environment and they go, wait, how many times have we been around? Even some good friends of ours have come to India, but and then they're on a plane half an hour later. Not half an hour later, but I'm exaggerating here, but I'm trying to articulate that they're gone pretty quick. And so that's part of the spiritual process if you go on a pilgrimage, is to break down that cultural programming that you had, that socialization, to allow a new environment to rewire your framework. It's like what Terence McKenna once said. He said that dropping yourself in completely foreign environments is like rewriting your software. It's like cleaning the hard drive and uploading a new software. He used Ghana as an example, right? Because I think he may have traveled to Ghana. He said, because someone was carrying on about all of their cultural programming. He's like, you forget all that. Just drop yourself in Ghana and let it do its work on you, right? So, and that's kind of what pilgrimage is about. You're supposed to drop yourself there, try to get out of your cultural hypnosis, and just move with the way life is in that place. And that's what's going to have a greater benefit for yourself.
Definitely. From doing so, I think we get to have much more different perspective in life. And that's when your own creativity comes into your life, I think. Because, like you said, you're deprogramming your cultural conditioning and you downloading new cultural things. And so in the end, once you get adapted to that, then there's this creativity flow through you from having different cultural experience, right?
Yep.
And that's why, again, at the moment there's a lot of limitation and difficulties right now. But whoever out there who wants to travel these exotic countries, do it ASAP. Because earlier and quicker you do it, it can reach your life. You can benefit from it much more. And quicker it happens is better for you, I think.
Yeah. Well, you've been talking about that a lot privately with myself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's why, look, I have said in the past before that every time when we get to come back to Australia or go to Korea and things like that, because this westernization, the westernized environment is actually very foreign to me. That's why, as you know, I struggle a lot the way people think and the way people behave, and to me it's so foreign. So I find it very difficult. So that I say, I should have done social training first and this and that. I do say that. But after a while, kind of you realize having some sort of life experience in the modernized society, then I come to realize I'm actually very grateful that I had that experience before.
Socialization,
socialization,
working life, all of that.
Yeah. Because, we all go through some obstacles in life, right? But because of the past experience, it given me so much strength to get over it and pretty quick as well. And come to the other shiny side quicker and better and even stronger because I had that experience earlier. So again, I think it's so important if any of you are at a younger age, that I strongly recommend to go on a journey as soon as possible. And that'll set the tone of your rest of your life, I think. Yeah. Because whatever you had in the past becomes your reference to make decisions of the future.
Yes.
So what you have experienced in the past is actually very important. Like in a very conventional way, be like finishing high school, go to get a job and start working, or go to university and do the further study, and then get a job and eventually finding a partner of life and start a family and whatnot. That sets the tone of your life. Whereas, okay, finish high school or go to uni or whatever, and after that, I think I'm gonna travel a little bit, and you go on a journey, place completely different from where you're from, and when that becomes your first experience of like your adulthood, then that sets kind of a standard of your life for the future. So you always will be curious about new things and just always be seeking new experience and things like that. And you'll always have quite relaxed and open-minded about things. And so later on in your life, that experience will give you much more advantage for your own build your own life.
Yeah. Well, you were 20 when you went to India, right? So
yeah.
There's something important about the 20s. If you put a bit of effort into, and not just travel in the sense of going on a holiday. We're talking about extensive travel, right? We're talking about going away for 6 months or a year or something like that. And not everyone's that fortunate to do that, but if you can get your life to a situation where you can, and sometimes you don't even need that much money to do that. We know people who have traveled almost a year in India on $5,000. Less, you know what I mean? Like, so there's ways to do this if you're dedicated to, to learning more and to the art of pilgrimage and everything like that. So, and as you were saying, that if you do it younger, it sets the tone for your life going forward. Whereas there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're having kids and starting a family so young, that's going to set the tone for your life as well. So, which is, neither is worse than the other. But if you're trying to understand, especially like the spirituality at some sort of depth, especially Eastern spirituality, and you want to go to the core of the mind of where it came from, then it's important to go on pilgrimage when you're young. Because sometimes when you go when you're older, a lot of the hard wiring's already there. So when you go to a place, say if you go to Nepal, right? You go to Nepal, things can work completely different in Nepal. And then if you're a 50-year-old and you're hardwired in your mind,
going to Nepal for the first time in your life, I mean, like, there's a great chance, but a little bit more difficult, I think.
It can be more difficult, yeah.
It can be.
But there are some people who are very adaptive.
Easily, yeah.
So they just like, whatever, they just roll with things.
How good is this?
Yeah. But it's very, it's not, I wouldn't say it's common, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people, because it's kind of funny, because as people get older, some people, I should say, you get so comfortable in the way that they lived their life. And I remember, I forget who it was, maybe it was, I can't remember who it was, but maybe it was one teacher was saying that if you're in that stage, you have to throw your life upside down. You've stagnated. You're finished. Because you've come to a place where you've become a museum piece. So you've become a museum piece, and you don't ever want to become a museum piece. There has to be a sense of vitality and vibrance to your life to accentuate the spirituality that you have living deep within yourself. And pilgrimage is the perfect place to accentuate that. And so anyone of all age groups can do this. But maybe for older people, it will require maybe sometimes a little bit more effort. Because older people, sometimes they have more concerns about certain things, like they may talk about insurance and stuff like this, which I don't think that you have to worry about. But a lot of people do worry about those certain things. And
getting like vaccines for certain disease in exotic countries and things.
And we've never had vaccines for anything for those countries.
Remember, I did take some. Didn't really work.
Didn't work. Yeah, you got sick, remember?
I got it anyway.
Yeah. Like I remember when I went back to the doctor in Australia, we were in Myanmar for a while. It was a few years later, but they were saying, "What, you don't have the malaria thing and this and that? You didn't get malaria?" It's like, I didn't get malaria. Like, I mean, Myanmar's not that dirty. I don't know, like, I mean, like, again, this, if you haven't been there, you don't understand the environment.
Well, I guess people who never been those countries think that if you go there, you will get it.
Yeah, and you don't.
If you get it, if you go there, you'll get it. This sort of
mentality, yeah.
but it's not true.
That's not true. Some people will get it for
Yeah.
sure, but not everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that a lot of doctors and that carry on, everyone's going to get it. And it's like, no, we were there for months. I had mosquitoes biting me, nothing. So I'm good. I'm walking around, shanti, shanti, shanti. You know what I mean? Like, so...
Yeah, often those malaria tablets and things like that actually weaken your immune system.
Yeah, of course,
and
yeah.
you actually get sick from it. So.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's... how many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
So all of those... Yeah, again... You can get the vaccines and stuff like that for traveling, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I think that the preconceived idea of third world nations about how they're dirty in air quotes and unhygienic is a little bit of a scare tactic as well, because most of our friends have never had vaccines for anything. They've never been sick. I mean, the hospital system, though granted may not be better than some places, there's still a lot of smart people in those places that know what's going on. Like, so not everyone's a dummy. So, you know, you don't need to have a lot of those fears is our point, right? You don't need to have a lot of those fears. The focus should not be on that you're going to get this and that or you need insurance. The focus should be on that I'm going on spiritual pilgrimage, because this is going to enhance and accentuate the essence of my being. It's going to allow me to come back into contact more so with the essence of my being. And that's what the importance of pilgrimage is.
Yeah, from having that experience of pilgrimage, a lot of people will be able to experience that state of ananda, that blissful, that unassociated happiness that just arises within you. That state of mind is nowadays you can achieve anywhere, but definitely if you're in a journey of a pilgrimage, will definitely have that kind of experience, and that experience will overwhelm you in the end, so that you actually never want to go back, right?
Well, and to say that you can experience it anywhere, it is true, but it's not true also as well, right? Like, because we could say that a person working on Wall Street, they can experience Ananda. Is it likely? Not very likely. Because the environment...
It's not impossible, but yeah.
Well, the environment doesn't cater for it. See, like, if we look at a garden, right? Like, a perfectly beautiful garden can produce beautiful flowers. But if you're chucking seeds in that, in, you know... bad soil or dump or something like that, don't expect like a thriving flower to grow. And so the environment sometimes can nurture, and that's why we have monasteries and ashrams and that's why they are there, because they foster this experience that allows you to nurture that pure essence that you have within yourself. Where if you've got a lot of noise on the outside which keeps bringing you back into this state of ego, then that blocks the fundamental source within you. Well, you coming back into contact with that fundamental source, because you're constantly being trained to reside in the ego. And that's what Wall Street would do. That's what any job does, to be honest with you.
Yeah, anything related with finance.
Yeah, or anything. Any job. In general, most jobs require a certain element of ego because you need to get things done. And so pilgrimage, ashrams, monasteries, these are a reprieve from that ordinary state of consciousness, because the ego acts as a blockage to the fundamental forces of the universe, you know. But it's our kind of ordinary initiator of our daily responses and activities, right? But we've got to get beyond that, and pilgrimage helps that. And this is why the yogi and the sadhu, even the Taoist and the Buddhist, will leave society and never come back, right? Their pilgrimage is a life pilgrimage. Like the Buddha was a shramana, right? And so shramanas just walk in a certain direction without any thought of what they need and this and that. If people give them food, all well and good. If they offer them shelter, all well and good. There's no they don't expect anything from life, but it just comes to them in a certain way, right? The Buddha was pretty extreme with that. A lot of shramanas walk towards a city where Buddha would just walk. He would just walk in a straight direction, not even near cities and stuff like that, which hence he became like Skull and Bones. But this is a mentality about getting out of the cultural hypnosis, about getting out of all of that programming. That's why a yogi and that they don't ever stay in a city or a town for too long, because they understand that you start to pick up the habits and tendencies of that environment. It's just the way it is, and if you don't want to believe that, then you're blind to how reality is. In certain environments, you do take on some of the habits of the environment. It's just the way it is. And so if you keep moving the sense of pilgrimage, then you're never taking that on and you're keeping your mind pristine. That's the whole idea. And they take this to the nth degree, as you know. They don't even, some of them don't even see their families again, right? We know that Taoist master, not just this Taoist master, but there's many Taoist masters who have left to the mountains in China, and when speaking with them about their family, they're never going back. They're never going to see their family again. But they're not like
they're not sad or
nothing. Mm. It's they understand their family is in that world. I'm in this world. That's the mentality, right? Mm. It's like the Cold Mountain poem, Hung Shan poem about the escaping the red dust. The red dust being the city, the noise, and just the in some sense it's about the mind that's polluted, and he's come all the way to Cold Mountain to wash his ears out. You know what I mean? Like to put his head in the stream and essentially clean his mind from all of this socialization and culture and everything that he's been indoctrinated with. And so that's why it's very important to go on this pilgrimage, because for a brief moment of time, some of us aren't lucky enough to go on a life pilgrimage like a yogi or someone like this, but for a brief moment of time you can come into that energy of and actually feel what that's like, right? Like you feel like I don't feel like I'm Australian anymore. I don't feel like I belong to anyone anymore. I don't feel like I have any obligation to anything or anyone anymore. What a relief, right? What a relief.
Yeah, I think in the society, some people never live for their lifetime, right? Mm. So people don't even know they are like swamped by the cultural tendencies, which is, mostly not very beneficial. And we get easily adapted to those bad habits of behavior and way of thinking and all that. But just changing the environment from going on a journey will definitely refreshen your mind. But not only that, to be able to break that conditioned habits from society, right? Like even us being here for now, it's getting longer and longer, makes me sometimes realize that feels like I'm becoming like people like in this place. Like sometimes but good thing is that I am aware of that. I think not necessarily you need to fight against it, but just to be aware and be mindful of that itself is very important, and not to fall into that sort of a category where you act out of that sort of habits and things like that. But again, being on any kind of traveling itself can refresh in your mind, but especially, like you said, in a lengthy period of time, and with the spiritual reason, spiritual goal, will get you even further out in your spiritual journey, and that will just give you much more benefits than just going on expensive holidays, for sure.
No doubt about it. An expensive holiday will burn your pocket even more too.
Well, that comes with a lot more stress and
A lot more
pressure.
stress, yeah. You're going to have to make that money back up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's so important. It's so important. And that's what sadhana is, right? Sadhana is a lengthy period of time where you go on spiritual retreat, either to a cave or a pilgrimage, but the focus is different. It's not like what you said. It's not like I'm not going to go and sit on a beach in Fiji. I'm going to go to Tiruvannamalai. I remember when Swami Atmanananda in Tiruvannamalai said, what did he say? This is not a holiday destination, obviously.
Yeah. What to see in this place?
Yeah, what to see. If you know Tiruvannamalai, those of you out there, you will know what we're talking about.
Your reaction might be like, when you get there, is this it?
This is it, yeah. But once you stay there a while, you really connect with the place, and it's, when you first arrive, you will go, what is this? It's just a small Indian town, but you just got to just chill for a little bit, But it's definitely not a stereotypical holiday destination, But it's perfect for sadhana, perfect for pilgrimage, it's perfect for all of that, right? Actually, there used to be a pilgrimage back in the ancient times, an ancient pilgrimage from Mahabalipuram, so on the coast, to Arunachala. So they would, the yogis and the sadhus would migrate to the foot of the mountains from that area. So we're talking about way back here. We're talking about a few thousand years ago, and so that if you know where Mahabalipuram is, or Mamalapuram, however you want to call it, to Tiruvannamalai, it's quite a distance, especially if you're walking and you're in the South Indian heat. it's quite a job, but it's such an amazing. Well, we've only done it by car, but it's an amazing area to go on pilgrimage, and that's why we have had tours and pilgrimages in the south with people before, South India, and we still want to do that with you guys, but it's all a matter of the situation, and air quotes.
Yeah.
So, and we hope that we can take you on those experiences, but the whole point of this podcast today is to try and understand why it's so important and how it does transform your mind, right? And for you and I personally, it's, as we spoke earlier, it's been it's been way more significant than just reading the great text, and living in the environment, being with the people, understanding the culture and where this great traditions come from, the cognitive style, and just moving with that life on a journey has been the most beneficial, right?
Definitely. Again, that word transformation might be a perfect way to put it.
Yes.
You will just completely transform your ordinary mind into something very significant for yourself. That is why, some of the best experience that we had was to be in those amazing places and read the great scriptures and texts. Because it means more, right? Reading Upanishads in middle of the city in New York or anywhere, and reading the Upanishad in the foot of Arunachala or Mahabodhi temple and place like that, it means much more.
It's different, isn't it?
It means much more, and also I think your understanding from the scriptures will be much more profound.
Well, we have a friend that was like, "Why would I go to Tiruvannamalai for? Why would I go to Ramana Ashram? I've read Be as You Are, the main a book of Ramana's translation by David Godman. And it's like, you don't have to go. I mean, I don't know why you're being analytical about it. I don't know what you're trying to prove here. But what I can tell you is if you're reading Be As You Are in Ramana Ashram, oh my God. There's such a power in feeling the words of Ramana in the place that he sat and taught for his whole lifetime. And at the foot of Arunachala, right? There's a different energy about that. We know that.
Yeah.
And we hope that other people can come into contact with that, because once you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know, right? So, and that's very important. And, again, some people don't have the means to go on pilgrimages and this and that, but in this day and age, you can do things at a bare minimum. And usually when you go on a pilgrimage, you don't want to go on a pilgrimage in luxury. You want to strip it back. You want to go as raw as you can. You want to take the local transport. You want to do everything very raw, because that's going to enrich your experience, and that's going to keep you it's going to humble yourself, keep you humble.
That itself is a discipline,
Yep.
I think,
Yep.
because you kind of discipline yourself. You eliminate all the unnecessary desires. You just take what you need, right? Just need to get from place to place, get a local transportation, and have enough money to afford that, and etc. And all these things become part of the journey. And from doing so, you will have a real experience of these great masters had in the past, right?
Yeah.
For example, Ramana Maharishi must have walked miles and miles and got hitchhiked from people, and he literally had nothing but the clothes just to, put around himself and things like that. He actually lived that kind of life. He wasn't living in a 5-star hotel and getting, this luxurious meal every day, and he didn't live that life.
No.
He lived life on the ground. So to experience that life as close as possible is to build discipline ourselves and strip out all the unnecessary desires and
Trim the fat.
Trim the fat, lighten your backpack, all these things, right? And that all helps. And from doing so, we'll have much more significant and memorable experience.
You'll lighten your mind too, right? Without having tons of stuff in your backpack.
Again, having too much possessions possess you in the end, right? Again, like we know that if you have too much things with you, you have to worry about not to get stolen and things like that. And whereas if you just have a light backpack and just lighten up a little bit, then everything is much easier, and your life, your experience becomes richer.
Yeah. If you just have one change of underwear, usually people aren't interested in stealing underwear, so they don't want to wear other person's underwear. But if you have a lot of things on you, like a lot of laptops and this and that, then you're possessed by those too, because you're worried that they're going to be stolen and that. But if you're doing it in the purest form, then you'll have a light backpack. You'll be traveling very cheaply, close to the ground, and and staying in an accommodation that's very humble. It has a way of humbling you, right? Yeah. The pilgrimage is an art form for humility. It's about keeping you humble, because you come across so many things on the pilgrimage that are going to keep cracking your ego.
That's right.
Your ego thinks you're going to get it this way, crack. But I want to do that, crack. It doesn't matter if you want it that way. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not there.
It's not there.
What you want is not there.
It's not there, yeah. And that's what a lot of, especially Westerners, find it difficult in certain Asian countries, because they expect things a certain way, but that's not how it works there. And so it's a great lesson in humility. And then what that does, especially on a pilgrimage, is allow the process to unfold, and not to be then you're not overwhelmed by the experiences. Oh, we have to sleep on the sidewalk in Calcutta at 3 a.m. We'll see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, if something comes to my mind, we'll we'll try something, you know. So, and that's the mentality going forward on a pilgrimage. You have to have a sense of openness that you may sit at a train station for 13 hours. It's you know, I would say it's pretty much going to happen.
Yeah.
If you're going to go on a pilgrimage in India, you are going to have to wait 13 hours for a train one day, maybe. But it can be a great experience for you. And like what you said earlier, even though it may have appeared hard at that time, it's kind of a fond memory, right? In hindsight, because it built the character of that story, of that journey. Because the pilgrimage itself has its own life, it has its own journey. You're just a participant in the pilgrimage itself. You see?
And you took that piece for yourself.
Yeah.
To make it of your own experience.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But the pilgrimage is really running the show.
That's right.
You're just on the journey in the pilgrimage. Yeah. You think you're controlling it, but the pilgrimage is going, no. We have something more in store for you.
Yeah, I'll just drop this one in front of you, see how you go with this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's what's really great about the pilgrimage. It's a lesson in humility, teaches you how to be, you know, kind with others, but also how to be kind with yourself as well, like how not to get too erratic in these situations. And you and I have taken people on pilgrimages in India, and some people, because they're very new to, especially because we take them mainly to India, they're very new to the Indian environment, they react in really strange ways, like, because if you're not totally aware of yourself when you are on a pilgrimage, it can wear you down. If you are trying to operate from a certain level. You know, we had a friend once, and it appears in certain ways, right? We had a friend once in Mahabalipuram on a pilgrimage, and, you know, you and I, we love Indian food, right? Like, and so, like, for me, every meal is like the first meal for me. Like, I just love it, you know what I mean? And I'm like, how good's this? And she's like, I'm just getting sick of it. Sick of this Indian stuff. And, like, really, like, bit down on, like, and there's nothing for me to say, you know what I mean? I could say something, but what's the benefit? I know where she's at. She's in a state of trying to control the situation,
Right.
But you can't. This is India. Guess what the main food is? It's Indian food. You're not getting hamburgers and pizzas. I mean, you can get those there, but they're not what you stereotypically get at McDonald's. You know. But that's what can happen. It can appear and it can manifest in certain ways in people. So, and that's very important for other people to be mindful of when they're on pilgrimages. Catch yourself doing that. And if you do express something of that nature, acknowledge it. Because as soon as you acknowledge it, and the quicker you acknowledge it, it's better for the people involved. And, you know.
Yeah, to prevent from you just impulsively reacting in that moment.
In that moment, yeah. Because the pilgrimage is running the show.
That's right.
The pilgrimage is teaching you lessons in life. You are not running the show. That's the importance of pilgrimage. It's running the show. You have got the shits with Indian food, but the pilgrimage is saying, this is what we have for you. The same food. Everywhere you go. Enjoy. Learn to enjoy everything as if it's fresh. As if it's the first experience in your life. That's what the pilgrimage is trying to teach you. Teaching you to enjoy the spontaneity of life.
And also, that makes you humble and also more receptive as well in life. Right? Just be okay with what's given and not asking too much more than that, and be content with what's there.
Yes. Contentment is really important. Right? It's a significant principle in Eastern spiritual practice, spirituality in general.
Yeah.
Being content with what's there. It's beautifully said, love. And that's what you have to learn when you're on pilgrimage. That contentment that Lao Tzu talks about is just... Actually, you should feel privileged you're on the pilgrimage. It's a privilege, actually.
I think that's why that, like, you can say mental strength, psychological strength, spiritual strength gets slowly building inside of yourself why you don't even know. Because, for example, again, when your train delayed by 13 hours, at the beginning you were told it's going to be in 2 hours. 2 hours, no chance it's coming. There's no sign of coming. After that, another 3 hours. Oh, okay. Well, after 3 hours, it's not coming. Then you kind of give up, right? It's a completely foreign situation that you're in. You have to navigate it through somehow. Place where it's completely new to you. You don't know where to go, how to solve the problem, language barriers and whatnot. But you have to navigate it through, right? At that moment, you might panic for a little bit, but you will eventually get over it, right? But in time, that experience, it gave you so much strength to get over that, like difficulties. But not just to get over that situation, but psychologically, you face so much frustration and like an anxiety and an uncertainty and these kind of things, right? And you might panic but that experience will give you so much strength, and you not just have that experience. There is much more to come, right?
Oh, plenty.
Yeah, plenty more to come, one after the other. It never ends sometimes, right?
Well, it doesn't end.
Yeah, like that's why we again, like I said, that's why you kind of gotta expect it and you mentally prepared for it. Yes. But again, those experiences will give you so much strength psychologically, so that's why how many times we say the people complain in this modern society of things. It's actually like, it's not a problem at all.
No. Insignificant most of the time.
So insignificant, and it's just, that being a problem is not even a conversation, actually.
My iPhone's not working. So what?
So what? And people sometimes panic, the battery's running out. I'm like,
there's not much to say about that, is there?
You'll be fine. You live.
You'll live, yeah. I'm pretty sure you'll survive. Again, possessed by what they own. And that's what the pilgrimage teaches you, not to be possessed by what you own, right? Like it's...
Yeah, again, just that itself is a great teacher.
But those lessons, like you said, like 13 hours, what happens at a train station for 13 hours is... It's not essentially giving up, like what you said. It's more so letting go. Yeah, right. Because you can't control a situation.
You want things to work out, so that you can control, under your control.
Under your control, yeah.
But
doesn't matter how much you scream at the ticket booth, and
it ain't coming.
That train ain't coming, because I'm pretty sure it's only in Varanasi. So that's another 8 hours that it's going to take to get here.
But
it can't fast forward.
Yeah, and like when you once you let it go of the control, then you're much more like being like, it'll come when it comes.
Well, it was a good opportunity for you and I to meditate. We just sit on our bag and we just enjoy the situation after a while. Yeah. Of course, the first few hours you're a bit like, what the hell's going on here? Like. Because again, the pilgrimage is running the show, and you kind of forget. You're like, damn it, that damn pilgrimage has got me again. I got caught in the trap of thinking I'm running the show. Right. The pilgrimage is running the show. Right. So, and what the pilgrimage is always teaching you is to let go, and allow the pilgrimage to do its thing. Allow it to take you where you need to go. Yeah.
That's why a lot of people who love India believe that experience of India is it gives you whatever you need, exactly what you need to 100%, go through. 100%. And it's right in front of you, so that you can't ignore it, but to go through it. So a lot of people say that the experience in India is giving you exactly what you need to experience.
100%. 100%.
And when you think back, it is so true. And you hear so many people's experience that they had when they were in India. There are some quite stories. But again, it gives you exactly what you need to experience.
Yes, 100%, 100%.
And again, like you said, having that mindset of that you are in the control of pilgrimage, not you are in control. If you have that mindset, things will be much, much easier for you.
You may think I bought the train ticket and I bought this and that. That's okay.
Yeah.
You're just participating in the pilgrimage.
Yeah.
You're a participant.
Let's see if train will come.
You're a fish in water. The water is running the show. The pilgrimage is the water. You're just a fish. I can go this way, but I'm going this way, but I'm going this way at the same time. That's what the pilgrimage is doing to you.
Exactly. That's the kind of current of
The
water.
current, it's moving where it's going. It's teaching you those lessons. So yes, that's the importance of pilgrimage, right? That's everything we spoke about today is the importance of pilgrimage. And you and I, we love to take people on pilgrimage. We've done it many times. And we want to, I've said personally on other videos of mine about spiritual pilgrimages and this and that. So any of you who have watched or listened to the podcast up until this point, drop a comment below and tell us if you would prefer to go on a pilgrimage to South India, which would be a Shaiva pilgrimage, going to a lot of the ancient Dravidian areas, and the ancient sadhu yogis. It is a really amazing experience in South India, or a Buddhist pilgrimage up in the North India in Bihar and mainly So all of those areas, northern India, and also Kathmandu Valley, which would be like a mixture of Hinduism and Buddhism. Beautiful place, Kathmandu Valley in Nepal, or even another one, which you and I are probably going to do privately on our own as well. A little bit more than what we've done in the past is a northern Thailand pilgrimage, which would be mainly a Buddhist pilgrimage. But there's so much to see in northern Thailand. So drop a comment below which one you would prefer. We're always trying to accumulate data on what people are interested in, and what I've mentioned before, mainly a lot of people are interested in northern India, the Buddhist one, and also the Shaiva one in the south. So that's kind of, but we want to put it out there because you and I, we're constantly going to those sorts of places, and we may even add Sri Lanka when we have a lot more information on how to travel Sri Lanka and so forth and so on in the future, once we can get out of this situation, if you know what I'm saying. So
as soon as we get over this period of time.
So make sure you drop a comment below. Guys, remember, a lot of people ask me always about views I have and the health of this channel. If you want to help the health of this channel, you have to always remember to like the videos, to drop a comment, and to share with your friends. If you don't do these three things as in support of this channel, then the work can't reach a wider audience, which in some sense doesn't help the health and longevity of the channel. So we're always needing the help of our audience to get this work out further. And a lot of people always ask me your content should reach other people, and there are other people obviously interested in Eastern spirituality, but they don't know about the channel. Well, to help us out, you need to like, comment, and share with your friends. And I know that you may think that sounds strange, but the YouTube algorithm is a strange thing. So, and personally, I don't think it actually favors spiritual and educational content. That's a side note. But so make sure you all help us out by supporting the channel. And we hope you enjoyed the podcast today. And remember, drop a comment about the locations you would prefer, and drop a comment below and tell us about a pilgrimage you've been on. We've always
that would be great.
We're always looking at the comments and seeing what people think and so forth and so on. So, and always up for new ideas. If there's a pilgrimage that Guy and I don't know about, then we're all ears. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Have a good day, and we'll see you guys next week.